Hey, what is up YouTube? J Dragonite here, and welcome to episode 1, the official first episode, the pilot episode of my anime and manga talk show, oTALKu. So before I get started, first and foremost, please check out my episode 0 for all technicalities of this series, things that every watcher of the series should know, such as copyright infringement notices, where I don't mean to, impose any copyright infringement, and things like parental advisory. So please watch that first if you haven't already. Today I would like to review an anime that's very near and dear to my heart, my favorite anime really of all time, and that is Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann. Now before I start the review, let me tell you my original experience with Gurren Lagann and how it was technically my first anime, but at the same time not. And because I've mentioned this in previous videos, hinting at like, oh, my first anime, but it needs a little explanation. And what I mean by it needs explanation and that Gurren Lagann is my first anime is that before watching Gurren Lagann, as a younger child, I watched Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z, all that kind of stuff. So I knew those things, but I didn't know what anime was. I didn't know that they were anime. I just thought that they were like a different kind of styled cartoon. I didn't know that they actually had their own kind of genre until after I watched Gurren Lagann, until after I learned that Gurren Lagann was a manga, was an anime, and all these different shows were anime. So Gurren Lagann was, in my opinion, in my eyes, technically my first anime. So now that explanation's aside, I just want to clear that up. Moving on, I'll give you a quick kind of basic synopsis of the show. So basically, Gurren Lagann takes place in a fictional future world where humanity is basically suppressed underground, and they're basically held there so long that they forget what a surface is. Like many people don't even know that there's a surface. They just believe that the dirt around them, that is their world. And but there's a specific village that we start out in, and in this village our two basically main characters come in, and the first character is Simon, who is a driller for this underground village, because as the population expands, they need to expand, the room underground. So he basically helps to drill away dirt and debris so that they can expand their village. The other main character, Kamina, is a little older than Simone. Simone's maybe at the time of the show 13 or 14. I forget exactly if there is an actual specific age listed anywhere, but he's about 13 or 14 years old, just into his teens, and Kamina is older. Kamina is maybe 17 or 18, so he's a little more adult-like in his stature, but not quite an adult in his mind yet. So he's sort of in that range. And Simon, being the driller, he's on very good terms with the village authority, which in this case, the village is small enough where they only need one village chief. And basically, Simon, he is rewarded for his efforts with what they call pig mole stakes. In this world, there's these kind of mutant animals that's basically a combination of a pig and mole. And that's supposed to be their meat source. Kamina, on the other hand, he's not on good terms with the village chief. He is kind of a troublemaker, and he forms this little kind of squad of other little delinquents and troublemakers, and calls it Team Gurren. And he includes Simon, although Simon is in himself is kind of hesitant and doesn't actually really want to be there, but Kamina shows Simon a lot of attention and a lot of brotherly love, because Simon is actually a orphan. His parents were killed in an earthquake, and since they're underground, when there's an earthquake, debris falls, and his parents are crushed underneath the debris. So he and Kamina, however, has been to the surface before, but no one believes him. They don't believe in a surface world. He has, however, been to the surface before with his father, who initially, when he went up with his father, he didn't follow his father because he was too scared of the unknown as a child. But now that he's grown into a man, he wants to prove himself and wants to escape this underground village and then live on the surface world and find his father and kind of prove himself to his father. But through a series of events, these two are kind of dragged into what is basically sort of a war going on between a rebel faction and the suppressors of humanity, which are called Beastmen. And they're basically these genetically engineered beings that look like humanoid, but they're actually of a beast kind of derivative. Some are clearly, either from a scorpion or a gorilla or a bird, whereas others are kind of hybrids of multiple animals and humanoids. And then the ruler of these beastmen is called the Spiral King. And he is the ultimate oppressor of humanity. And basically those are the two factions, are the Spiral King with his army of beastmen, and then this small rebel faction that comes up with Simone and Kamina. And the whole thing, how it starts, is that Simone, through drilling, he finds this little, he calls it like a metal face, and a very small drill. And he finds out that the drill is kind of like a key for the metal face. And it basically ends up being, from there, a mecha anime. It is mainly a mecha anime. However, there is more to it, so if you don't like mecha anime, stick around for a minute until I explain a little more. So, with that said, with that basic outline that I gave you, and there's a lot more to the show, but if I would say any more, really, there would be a lot of spoilers, and I don't want to do that. So, moving on from that, I'll get to my review now, my personal opinions of the show and my review. To start, let me just say that if I were to sit here and tell you everything I love about Gurren Lagann, it would probably be one of the longest videos on YouTube, and I can't say if that would be if I would be lying or not about that. So I'm not 100%. That's kind of how bad it is. But so with that in mind, I'm going to break it down in order of kind of what I hold of importance to the show when it comes to all of its factors. And even that, at least in this case, you shouldn't pay any mind to that, because let me just say this ahead of time, everything about this show I love. So this is just kind of like order of importance, but at the same time, you can kind of disregard that kind of mindset. So to start off, just a little basic information about this anime is that it aired in 2007 and was created by Gainax and was produced in the United States by Aniplex and Bandai. And it is known, it's Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, but it is known widely in the United States as just Gurren Lagann. So let's move on to the review. First, I would like to review the soundtrack. Well, in my personal opinion, the soundtrack is really, really very good. If I could sit here and say, and that's with no bias, I'm not so sure I could do that. But it's a very good soundtrack, and I actually will talk a little bit more about that later in a later section. But moving on from soundtrack, the soundtrack is very good though. But moving on from that, animation. The animation in the show can be a little wonky at times. I do remember there was one episode at one point that I believe it was episode 5 or 6. I'm not 100% on that. The animation all of a sudden fell off for a second. It looked very strange compared to the previous episodes of the series, and then all of a sudden, right after that, episode, it picked back up, and it was just fine after that. So if you run into that episode, don't think that it's going to be like that for the rest of the series. Please continue watching. Watch that episode. It does have some important plot points, but you don't think that trend is going to continue. Please continue watching. But other than that particular episode, for its time, the animation in this anime, in my opinion, is very gorgeous. Especially, I want to say, later on in the series, into the later episodes, when character designs and certain things get like a little more complicated and more intricate. It's pulled off pretty well. I really do like the animation in the series. It's pretty good. Onto genre. Another reason why I like this anime a lot, and something that I could say quickly about why I like this anime, is it kind of, I don't want to say transcends genre necessarily. It can in some ways, but there's a lot of different things that are touched on in this anime. There's, it's a mecha anime mainly, but there are romance points, there's action points, there's comedy points, there's so much that this anime offers, that I tell people all the time it may be a mecha anime, and the robot does kind of take center stage, because the robot's pretty important to the plot, very important to the plot, but it is kind of more about the characters as well. It's what's happening inside of that robot and the other people who, help the main characters, and, it's the whole thing of it. It's about the plot of the movie and not just the mecha. So if you're not a mecha fan, if you're not a romance fan, or if you're not an action fan or whatever, you will find something in this show to love, and I can guarantee that. On to plot. The plot of the show is probably mainly why I would say this is not an anime necessarily for kids. It can be. Kids can kind of, I'm sure, enjoy the action of it or the funny moments, but there are some points, some fan service, and some minor cursing, such as like badass or shit or something like that. And curses are kind of very, very few and far between in this show. So cursing wouldn't be such a big deal, but besides just the fan service and the cursing, the plot has a lot of meaning in it, and has a lot to offer to not only just a casual fan, but an intellectual fan who would want to break it down into certain points. So I'm not sure a child would be able to appreciate all of that, but it is pretty child safe. There isn't really nudity. There's close nudity. There's a lot of fan service, that kind of stuff. But there's not nudity, and there's not very strong language. So if it's not, it's definitely not mature. It's more like PG. It's like, if you're sitting with a child and it's like parental guidance, then it's fine. But other than that, it doesn't seem like a kid would really appreciate what this is really about. And finally, for the final part of my review here, I would like to talk about the show's message. And I've already said this, but the show does have an actual message to it, and if I were to talk about it in detail, I would have to give away pretty much the entire anime, so I'm not going to do that. But know that this show has a message to it, and it's a rather strong message. So it's definitely something to watch. It's definitely something to watch and think about. So moving on from that, I would like to just to say that there are kind of like these side projects for Gurren Lagann, and that is the Parallel Works. After you've watched the series, there's kind of like this mini series that are kind of very short episodes called Parallel Works, and basically what they are is they are songs from the OST with kind of like video footage going on behind the songs, and they could be anything from the series to actual live action things of just like scenery around the world. I've seen some, and then others are like illustrations and video footage of characters in other situations where it's like, for example, they have the two main characters at one point, like Simone and Kamina. they're knights or something, like medieval knights, and the Lord Genome is like the evil king, and it's kind of like it's just something different in the same style as Gurren Lagann, with the same characters, with the OST basically playing in the background. But they're neat to check out if you want to see your favorite character in a different kind of way. They're pretty cool to check out, or just to listen to the great soundtrack that this anime has to offer. Other than that, there are something very important that I want people to know about are the Gurren Lagann movies. And not many people know about these. Not many I feel like not many Gurren Lagann fans know about these, although they should, because they're actually very worth it. And it's kind of going to sound contradictory at first, but you have to let me explain. And why I say it's going to sound contradictory is because the basic plot of the movies, of both movies, is a retelling of the anime. So you're saying, well then, why is it worth it? Well, the thing is, what they do with the movies is they condense the series to kind of take out any minor plot points or anything unnecessary, and then they kind of loop together the main events of the show and divide it into 2 movies. So the thing is, you need to know about the series before you watch the movies. Don't think that you could just watch the movies and get the entire plot and understand everything that's going on. You need to actually watch the series first, and then once you watch the movies, you'll kind of be able to fill in the blanks when they skip something. But the movies, why they're worth it, is because they actually have certain changes to them, certain changes to how battles go. The results of the battles, like the winner or loser, is always the same, but how the battle progresses is actually drastically different. So I can't actually really stress this enough, how important it is if you become a fan of this series to watch the movies, especially because of the second movie. The second movie is absolutely incredible. But again, I can't tell you why until you watch the series, so that would require spoilers, and I don't want to do that. So the best thing that I could say is to simply watch the series, and if you become a fan of the series, to please watch the movies, because they're very worth it. Now, with that said, I would just like to repeat that if I were to make an entire video to tell you all the reasons why I like Gurren Lagann and the messages that it taught me as a person, this video would be so much longer. As I'm sure you can clearly tell, I have the DVD, I have a bunch of merchandise, I have a shirt, I have the necklace of the show. I'm a huge fan of Gurren Lagann. It's done a lot for me as a person. Not only has it provided me with entertainment, it has taught me things, and again, that goes back to message and how, I don't feel like children who might not have that sort of mental capacity yet could appreciate the show to the fullest. But I'm a huge fan. But there's a reason for that, is what I'm saying, is that, basically, it's something you truly have to watch to understand. If you watch it and you don't like it, I can respect that, but at least you gave it a chance. If you watch it and you don't get as much out of it as other people have, at least you watched it, and at least you can, say that you watched it and hold a conversation with someone who has watched it. But if you watch it and it really gets to you, then it was worth it for me to sit here and to talk about it, and to hopefully draw out interest in you to watch the show. But again, I can't drive this point home enough. It's something you have to watch to understand. And I want to say this because this is very important too. There are going to be there might be certain points in the show where you might want to just stop watching. And if that sounds ominous, it should. Again, with no spoilers, just a little teaser. If that sounds ominous, it should. There might be a time where you're going to want to stop. Don't. Keep watching. Please keep watching. When you're in doubt, keep watching. If you think it's not going anywhere, keep watching. Watch all the way to the end. and you'll get it. But again, it's something. I'm sounding like a broken record here, but it has to be said. It's something you have to watch to get. Even if you don't, like it. Again, at least you at least tried it, and I can appreciate that much. And you can at least say you watched it, or whatever. But I just hope maybe someone out there can I can add a fan to this anime, because it's phenomenal to me, and it's one of the best shows I've ever watched as an anime or anything else. It's amazing, really. With that, I just want to say that I might make a mini-series later on down the line of discussion videos strictly about Gurren Lagann. That's how much I could talk about it. I'm not 100% on that, because that might take a lot of time to make a series and to figure out how to break it down, what to say, when to say it, and all that kind of stuff. I'm not 100%, but I'm just saying now that it could be a possibility. So, with all that out of the way, if that sounds at all interesting to you, please watch. Please check it out. If you watch it and you like it and you want to come back, please let me know in the comments below. I'm glad to talk to anyone about Gurren Lagann or any anime I review at any time. So moving on from that one, now that that's all out of the way, I would just like to go into the last segment of this, which is notable songs. So the notable songs in the series are just some songs I personally like from the series, songs that stuck out to me in the series, and I will include links for each in the description from various other videos on YouTube. So number one, first and foremost notable song is, and the first song you're going to notice, is the opening theme song to the anime itself, which is called Sura Iro Days. It's an amazing rock genre song, and if you understand Japanese, anything like that, if you look up a translation, you'll see that it's a very upbeat and hope-filled song. It's really great, and if you don't understand Japanese or don't want to look up an exact description, which may not rhyme and go with the beat of the song, there is an actual fan dub, an English fan dub that a artist made on YouTube. I will link her video in the description as well. She is Geeky Fan Dubs, that's her channel. Please check her out if you would like. I've watched some of her other videos. She's pretty good at doing, basically taking a Japanese song and translating it into English while keeping the beat of the song. And she's probably the closest English translation I've heard to the actual translation of the song. Of course, she's going to change some things so it stays with the beat, but other than that, it gets what the point across of what the original song wants to say, just in a different language. It's the closest thing that it could do, in my opinion, anyway. So please check those both out if you like the series. Next song, I have 4 songs in all. Next song is a song called Mina no Peace, and that is the second ending theme of the series. So that's the ending credits. They'll play a song during the ending credits, and there's one song for the first half of the anime, and then the second song for the second half of the anime is Mina no Peace, and that's another very upbeat sounding rock song. Very cool. It's kind of like I want to say it almost kind of reminds me of Rage Against the Machine, if you know who they are. It's kind of like a little bit of rap in there with the rock, not as aggressive as Rage Against the Machine. Of course, it's more upbeat, but it's a great sounding song. Next song I would like to mention and bring up is a song called Nikopol from the soundtrack. And this is the theme song of one of the characters in the show named Viral, and he's actually one of the Beastmen. But his soundtrack, his theme song is very cool. It's more aggressive and confrontational to kind of mirror his personality, and that is a more of a hard rock kind of song, but there's also more kind of like rap implications in that as well, or kind of like hip hop more like implications in that. So that's a very good mix, and it sounds very good, and that's actually in English as well. That's not a Japanese song, that's in English. Also, the final song I would like to bring up is "Libera Me from Hell," and there's a very specific version I'd like to talk about really quick, and that's the version that is the combination of two different pieces of the soundtrack, and that is the original "Libera Me from Hell," which was a purely opera piece, and then "Rap is a Man's Soul," which is another part of the OST, and is a rap song, and basically what they do with the version I'm talking about, and you'll hear it in the anime, and if you look it up, it's pretty easy to find. But they take those two songs and they put them together, so that it's literally a rap and an opera song mixed together. And you might think, right off the bat that sounds like an odd combination, but it is pulled off really, really well. And the opera part is very beautiful. I saw translations for the opera part, because the opera part I believe is in Latin, and very kind of dark undertones to that part, whereas the rap part, once you hear it, that's very much more upbeat and kind of almost revolutionary in its mindset. So this song, and someone actually brought this up to me before, and I always try to bring it up when I talk about the song, but the song in itself is sort of an argument, which is very interesting, because you have this one side that's very negative, and then you have this other side that's very positive and upbeat. So that's a very, very interesting song to listen to, and it always, like, I still listen to it to this day every once in a while, and every time I listen to it, I get chills, because of not only the memories that it brings back of the parts that it was played in the series, but also because the song is that good. So with that said, that was my final segment for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share on social media if you like any of my content. Every single little bit helps. Thank you so much, and have a good one.